I was asked to speak here only a day, yesterday or today, this morning, and I had many scenarios in my head, but you mentioned WhatsApp. In Israel, it's called WhatsApp. Okay. So WhatsApp is an application that every Israeli has, and we communicate anywhere in the world that we are. A week ago, Doug and Gail, and my brother-in-law Mark and his wife, and Leslie and I, we went together on a road trip to an area of California. It's called Mendocino. We have never been there, and surprisingly, so is almost everybody else there except for Doug. And guess what? There's a large area in that region that has no cellular or internet reception. And during the trip up, I mean, that would be a cause to replace the government in Israel. An area without cellular reception. So during the trip up, I don't remember if it was Mark or Gail who told us, turned around while we were in the car and said, Avi, Leslie, you're always on your cell phone. What's going on? And this is true. Every time something happens, everybody in Israel knows about it before anybody else. So the last few days, we've been getting terrible messages about soldiers. So that's WhatsApp. And we had no reception for a week. It was great. It was great. And so through this WhatsApp, I'm in contact with 4 people. 3 of my children and my hospital. My oldest son, Matan. By the way, Doug, we have 3. We continued 1 more. We wanted a girl.
Okay.
Matan is in Germany now. He's in Düsseldorf. He's in a very, very special program. He graduated from a school called IDC, studying government studies, and he went, selected by EU, the European Union, 9 Israelis, 9 Jordanians, and 9 Palestinians go to Düsseldorf for a master's degree, and they're supposed together to bring peace to the Middle East or start the seeds for peace in the Middle East. Wonderful program. He's now finishing his 2nd year, graduating October. They were all very, very, very good friends. And speaking to him this last week, in the background I used to hear Arabic and German, only hear Hebrew now in the background. Everybody's kind of stay with their own, and I hear less and less about his Arab friends. So wars take us so far back. 2-3 weeks, take us so far back, and he went with so many hopes, and I hope he can maintain those hopes. So that's Matan. He's going to be graduating, going to go to Germany to his graduation, and I hope to see everybody together and hope to be a resolution by then. Our 2nd son, David, is sitting at home. He's a paratrooper. Matan is a combat engineering. Everybody did their share. And Matan sitting at home, sitting at home waiting to be called. Everybody in the age between 20 and 30 now sits at home and wait to be called. The parents actually don't want them to be called, but they do feel, regardless of their political view, they do want to be called. It's interesting that everybody wants to be part of it. And it would be very hard for me to say that they're right-wingers. They're far away from it. But they want to be part. The approval rate for this war is like 85 or 90%. It's always like this during wars in Israel. It's the only way it can exist. And my youngest daughter, Maya, we've been in contact. She's in the army now, so in the army you cannot use your cell phone while you're in duty. She can always call us this in half an hour before they go to sleep, and she can communicate with us. So she told me that, she's 18 years old. She's never been to a funeral. And the first funeral she went was classmate of her, 19 years old. It was very difficult for her and for us to be so far. So we want to be back home. And the other reason I came here, besides working at UCLA, is also to raise some money for the hospital. Not here, not tonight. And last night I went to a nice, very, very nice place. I mean, houses that don't exist in Israel. And very, very nice place. And let me tell you, raising money for peace purposes during war is impossible. Everybody that came to the place was already in 3 different events, donating money to the IDF and Magen David and all those issues. So I decided to share with you just what we do in our hospital. We do have, first of all, our hospital is very unique. Haifa, if you don't know, is a city that has about 20 to 25% Arabs. About 30 to 35% of the employees of our hospital are Arabs. And Haifa was bombed before in the previous Lebanese war, was heavily bombed, especially our hospital. It is on the beach. If you see the map of Israel, we're like on the beach in front of Lebanon. So 7 or 8 missiles hit around the hospital. So we then moved, that was 2006, we moved all the patients that faced the Lebanese side to the basement. Terrible, terrible conditions, like World War II conditions. And then our chairman decided no more. We will build an underground hospital so we are protected. So actually we just built, starting 2010, we just opened the largest underground fortified hospital in the world, probably the only one who needs a fortified hospital. And it's a parking structure. 3 stories below the ground parking structure, beautiful parking structure. But when there is war, the walls fall down and everything is ready to be a hospital, which is beautiful. Everybody, if you go on a tour to Israel, Haifa, it's not on the map, except for now, everybody goes to Haifa all of a sudden. All the, all the Taglit and all the tours, everybody goes from Tel Aviv north now, so we're on the map again. So it's really interesting to see. I mean, it's very unique, very special, and we're prepared. Thank God we were not bombed this time. And so this is why I came to try and raise money for beds and whatever things for that hospital, and I hope I was able to do so yesterday. I have an anesthesiologist working with me in Israel, French. And he, his children are high school now. He told me that their teachers in the 12th grade asked them, how many of you plan to go in a combat unit when you go in the army? So Israel is probably the only country, like here in LA, you probably see that comparing high schools, how many graduates go to Ivy League schools and how many go to UC schools. Those are the 2 statistics that I see. And it's very common to see statistics in Israel. How do you compare high schools? What percentage of their graduates go to combat units? I mean, so my answer to him, he said, do you think that's normal? And I said, it's survival. So, it is survival for us, and we do unite during a time of war. Not necessarily everybody agrees with the government. I mean, when there's no war, believe me, there's arguments all the time. You get 2 Jews, you get 3 opinions, we all know that. By the time of war, 10 Jews, one idea. And Doug was very nice to me during this trip. He did not argue back with me. I didn't say what I even commented on this. I told him that what's wrong with Mark. Oh my God, Mark. Nobody said a word this time. Everybody was very quiet, and we tried to be very respectful for the dead soldiers. We do all feel also for the dead on both sides. We do, even though it doesn't seem so, and we do not want this war to happen and to continue. And we want everybody dead, safe, and we want it to stop, and we want to be able to survive. I have to tell you, over the years, again and again, a lot of my Arab friends, and believe me, we work peacefully, there's no problems. Everything is good. But they truly believed it were an episode. The Jewish existence in that region is an episode. And every time I see what happens during wartime, I can tell you that it's not an episode. The truth is, if I was an Arab trying to defeat Israel, I'd make peace. And the Jews would do the job alone. We would, everybody disagrees with everybody, and that would be enough. So, my message probably to me and to my children and to everybody here, that Israel's existence is not an episode. It's probably there to exist and to stay for a long time. We all hope that it will be in peace. Thank you. I will take, please, if you want to ask me anything you want to ask me, I'm
ready to answer your questions.
By the way, before I finish, the teenagers here, named Bat Mitzvah, that sang here, I want to tell you, first of all, if you came to Bar Bat Mitzvah in Israel, you do 10 times more than they do, way more. They would never agree to, I don't want to ruin anything for them, they would not agree to that, which is great, it's beautiful, just beautiful. I'm really, really impressed, and it's not the first time that I see that. It's really, really impressive. Questions?
I have.
No.
It's a good question. I'm kind of intrigued with the underground hospital. How the walls that are coming down have electricity and oxygen, and how does that work?
I have to tell you, it's an amazing operation. Any of you wants to see that in action? Go to YouTube tonight, not on Shabbat, of course. Go to YouTube and put down Rambam Hospital, fortified underground hospital. There's several YouTubes about the drill that we had and what it looks like. It's impressive. So everything was thought about. First of all, if we shut it down, we are fortified against conventional warfare and also against chemical warfare, because some of our neighbors have chemical warfare. So, and we can stay...
So you're saying it's hermetic?
Hermetic. So we could stay, if we shut down all the doors, we could survive for 48 hours. Hopefully by that time we'll get some help. If it's like the end of the world, we'll get some major help. So 48 hours we could stay completely protected. Like Israelis, like Jews, there's area in the underground hospital for a kindergarten, for a daycare, and for the families to be, because the families always go where everybody is. There's no separation. So everything was thought about, and it's really impressive. We have huge filters made by Christian Germans that live in Israel. Also very interesting story. Very, very strong supporters of Israel. They live there like in a kibbutz style. And they make those filters and they sell them now all over the world.
You're talking about air filters?
Air filters. We have water supply, food supply, anything that's good for 48 hours, we could completely shut down. Rambam. Rambam, by the way, is Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon is the Maimonides. So it's one of the first modern physicians and lived in Egypt, a Jewish physician who lived in Egypt around the medieval times. So Maimonides, there's several hospitals in the United States named the Maimonides, and we're named after him. And more questions?
Do you have friends who live in the South? And what's their experience, or Southern Israel?
I know that, I'm very, very glad you asked. The life of people in the South, not only now, since 2009, been hell. We shouldn't be condemned that we thought of a way to protect our citizens with the Iron Dome. It seems when you watch news here that it's our fault that more citizens are not being hurt by the missiles that are shot towards Israel. But the lives are unbearable. Unfortunately, a lot of people are trying to move away from the South. And by that, some of the missions of the people in Gaza are accomplished. Because life is unbearable. I mean, you need to be within depending on how far you are from the border, you need to be within a certain amount of seconds away from a shelter. Since 1991, when Iraq launched those missiles against Israel, every house and apartment building built in Israel has to have either a safe room or a bomb shelter. So any house you go to in Israel has a safe room. Half of the houses don't have that yet, so they need to run. Also, if you're at work or on the street or going somewhere, you need always to think about a place to hide. Like here, you see in schools people telling you what to do when there's an earthquake. Over there, they tell you what to do when a missile hits or when you hear a siren. So that is the difference between life is hell in the south. It's not just now. They're always under fear. I mean, a lot of children have psychological problems, and it's very hard to cope with. It's not just now. Yes?
How can we in America help Israel? Part number one. Number two, do Israelis think that our government is doing enough?
I'm sorry,
Do
Israelis?
Israelis think that our government is doing enough?
First of all, the number one thing that you're doing here now is probably the most important thing to help Israel. Anytime you maintain your support of Israel, regardless of how you do it, regardless of how you do it, my suggestion, when people ask me what to do, I say find one thing that is your interest, whether it's medical, like Magen David, Hospital of El, IDF, education, anything, one thing that you're interested in, try to be involved with that. For us, it's very, very important. Doug and I had a lot of discussions about do we feel more connected because we're Jews across nations than you are connected to non-Jews around the world or here? And I've tried to prove to him that we are, just by saying to someone anywhere in the world, you meet some, just by saying I'm Jewish, automatically there's some connection. It will not go away forever. The topic was nationalism versus religion, and in my eyes, we cannot separate them. The degree is the difference. As far as the U.S. government, I know there are different views. I think overall, the U.S. government has been probably the only solid help for Israel and consistent, regardless whether it was Republican or Democrat. Obama has given Israel a few things that Bush refused to. Bush has done something that Obama refuses to. So I think overall it's towards Israel. Towards Israel is about the same. And there is some animosity people feel because, the beginning of the Arab Spring that started, and people felt that the United States may be going a little bit more towards that. But overall, people are very, very happy with and proud of. As Jews, we don't have very strong sports teams, and even in the Olympics, so we always root for the Americans because so that if America wins a gold medal, everybody in Israel is happy. So those things, if that proves anything.
One last question.
Yes.
Your dad, you said you have 4 kids? Yeah,
We have 3.
3, okay. I misheard. Good. You have 3 children, and each has served their time in Sahal and one now. What are the emotions that a parent feels when your child goes to serve in Sahal? Is it one-sided? Is it gray? Is it multi? What's it like?
I think that's an overwhelming majority of Israelis that are very, very proud when in Israel there's draft, so it's not a voluntary or a hired or a professional army. everybody has to go. However, it's very easy not to go. If you really want not to go, you don't go. Most parents really want their children to go and serve. Nobody wants their children to go to war and die, obviously. I mean, each and everyone in our family has been to war. I went to the First Lebanese War. I spent a month in the war. My personal experience, you go into war, you don't think you're going to die. You think you're going to live. And it's the only way to protect yourself while you're at war. Then my first son, Matan, went to the Second Lebanese War. David went to Lat Katz and Maya, now is in this war. So we don't want them to be part of it, but we're very, very proud. Most Israelis are very proud when the children select to do what we call significant service. That's what we call it, significant service. Today, even serving in a unit called 8200 is a computer unit that people, if you didn't do combat before, people like say you're not good enough, but if you go to the computer unit, it's like the top unit, everybody comes out of that unit, makes all those apps that we use on the phone, and really, really impressive people that come out of it. So people have learned to contribute to the Army in many ways, but everybody wants to do a significant service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shabbat Shalom.